Yes, that's a very good question. It goes back a very long way. I recall sitting in Salesforce Tower way back in 2016. This was in London, and we just completed a spectacular 2015. We'd done over $5 billion in revenue across 2015, and Europe had been a major contributor to that figure. And so on that day's agenda, we had two items, right? Two significant items. First of all, we take a review, maybe look at 2015. Your typical sort of reflective analysis, what did we do well? What could be done better? And it was that kind of analysis that results in lots of self-congratulations as well as a little bit of self-scolding. And then the second major agenda item had a lot more time allocated to it. And it was clear to me why that was in hindsight. If I think back, the demands on the company from outsiders and the executive committee had been increasing quite considerably in recent months. And what that translated into was much greater expectations, for each region, on the teams that led those geos, on the individuals that worked tirelessly, to deliver success for Salesforce and for its customers in those regions. And this second agenda item, it called for the delivery of a strategy and a vision that would require us to sit together and discuss, not just the next 12 months, but the next 60 months. And in fact, the executive team in San Francisco, led by Mark Benioff and Parker Harris, they laid out their vision for the next 5 years. I remember thinking at the time that the level to which the entire company now needed to sharpen its focus and raise its level of execution, it was utterly unprecedented, right? Even for a rocket ship like Salesforce. So thinking back, on that day, who was there at Salesforce Tower? There was some of the top brass of the Salesforce.com leadership team. There was Chris Choudhury, who was GM for EMEA. We had Miguel Milano in the room, who was president of the international business. Arsenio Otero, our COO at the time, and then a long list of the sort of who's who at Salesforce.com. And we knew where we needed to get to, but the full journey had not been plotted. And so this was the focus of agenda item number 2, right? So Salesforce was gunning for 20 billion annual run rate by 2020. Okay. And so the agenda item number 2 was how are we going to do this, right? As leaders, how are we going to do this? We're responsible and we're accountable for the plans and the direction. And, and we have the job of inspiring our teams and guiding the entire company to a $20 billion outcome. So at an operational level, all this is about the people, it's about the processes and our technology real estate. But the real question was how do you leverage those things to drive growth at that kind of pace? Okay. So in all likelihood, the traditional approach to growth through investment in marketing, hiring more account execs, sales guys, acquiring other companies, bringing on more industry experts, more marketeers, more technologists and lots of support staff, all that would eventually give us that level of revenue. But the real question was, would we be able to get to 20 billion from 5 billion in just 5 years, right? And there are very few companies that have ever accomplished anything close to this. And none of those companies were companies that we could research for our playbook because, they were in the wrong industry or they were selling to a different market sector. And so, in Salesforce parlance, we were trailblazing, right? So at Salesforce, we owed our success to many things. Okay. We had a terrific product. It was really easy to use. The time to value was remarkably short. And the user experience was likened at the time to the simplicity of, sites like Amazon and eBay. And, we had a charismatic CEO and this great executive team, who had these sort of quirky early efforts and guerrilla marketing. And they, through all this work, they'd created this remarkable brand, and that brand represented innovation and, that willingness to be scrappy and feisty, but at the same time, we're going to have fun doing this. So the environment at Salesforce was high energy, and the pressure was relentless, and at times it just felt like playing hard, to be honest with you. But we managed to attract the kind of people who thrived on that, and furthermore, we had a Salesforce Foundation. And that brought employees, partners, and customers together, to improve the state of the world, right? So some of us were cynical about this at first, but then it was a firmly held belief of Mark Benioff's and, from the very beginning. And we all bought into it, hook, line, and sinker, because it was such a good thing. So we weren't just selling great software. We're focused on being selfless. We're were focused on social responsibility, and that formed special bonds between all of us, right? And all these things and more had played a huge part in the company's success so far. So, but would these attributes get us to $20 billion by 2020, right? So Salesforce, it was more than a group of really smart and dedicated people. It was more than, great consulting or technology partners. It was more than the foundation or the amazing customers that we attracted. So it was a combination of all these things and more that came together to form what Mark Benioff called the Salesforce Ohana. And, that was at the core of everything that we did, right? It was the very heart of our success. So in fact, if you Google image search Salesforce Ohana, you might come across a blue image with a circle broken into 4 quadrants. And each of those is, you've got employees, customers, partners, and communities. And this image, didn't exist before that meeting at Salesforce Tower in London. And it was crystallized as part of an initiative decided on that day. And because we realized that to get to $20 billion by 2020 in 5 years' time, we could only achieve that by recognizing and communicating the value of our Ohana to every member of the Salesforce community. And we did this with gusto. So everyone was bought into it, right? Not just Salesforce employees, but you name it. System integrators, consultants, Salesforce admins, Apex engineers, developers, App Exchange partners, mobile developers, middle managers, execs. We had this global community of the smartest and most driven professionals in the history of software, all facing in the same directions. And in fact, things worked out rather well in the end. So last year, if we look back at Salesforce revenues for 2022, they were around $26.5 billion. And that ecosystem, which is the Salesforce ecosystem, it's expected to be valued at around 1.67 trillion by 2026. And this is according to research from IDC. So that is the Ohana to me, right? For me, the Ohana is more than just Salesforce.com. It's more than just Mark Benioff. It's everybody who participates, in that ecosystem. And the power of the Ohana is something that we can never, ever underestimate because it is remarkable. And what the Ohana can achieve, by working together is remarkable. So that to me, that to answer your question in a very long way, is what the Ohana means to me. The Ohana is going nowhere. The Ohana is going from strength to strength as I speak. Okay. And that may sound contrarian, based upon all this horrible news that we're getting from the media and from Salesforce.com about layoffs and redundancies and all that sort of horrible news. But let me explain what I mean. Okay. Ohana means family in Hawaiian. And that's where the term comes from. And the thing about family is that you can really, judge the character of family by how well it helps out its members when those members are going through difficult times. And right now, a lot of people in the Ohana are going through a hard time. I got laid off, blimey, nearly 20 years ago now. And it was a horrible experience, right? I felt insecure. It really shocked my confidence. I felt that I was worthless. I was no good at my role, all this sort of stuff. And I wondered about my future, where would I go next and what would I do? And, a friend of mine who I worked with, helped me out of that problem. He helped me get a job in the firm that he was working at. And I was able to sort of pick myself up fairly quickly from that. But I went through a period of a couple of months where I felt absolutely terrible. I felt like a failure and it was just a horrible, horrible feeling. And the level of insecurity was just really quite hard to explain. And I know that there are a whole bunch of people in the Ohana that are going through this right now. Feeling of insecurity, feeling, level of worthlessness. And the thing with redundancies, they tend to come out of nowhere, right? There's very little notice or, and the thing with Salesforce is, the people that are being laid off right now, some of those guys are really good guys. I mean, I've worked with them and they're remarkable professionals. And it's really quite sad to see the level of talent that Salesforce.com is shedding right now. So that's the horrible news. Okay. But there is there is this small silver lining, which is really heartwarming. So when somebody posts on LinkedIn, I've just found out that my role is at risk. I've just found out that my role has been made redundant. I've just discovered that I've been let go. These are truly horrible things to have to put on LinkedIn. But what I see is, the entire Ohana responding to these messages with offers of help and not just like empty gestures. There are folks going on there saying, let me help you with your resume, give me a call. Hey, it's been a long time since we last spoke to each other. This is a great time for us to meet up for a coffee. Let's have a chat. Hey, I'm a hiring manager. Let me show you the list of roles that we have at my company, and let's try to figure out where you might fit. So there's just a lot of support, and help and encouragement and positivity coming out of the Ohana right now. And that tells me that the Ohana is a strong, tight family. And we're going through a difficult time right now, or lots of people are going through a difficult time right now. But we're going to look back on this moment, and we're going to say to ourselves, wow, the Ohana really came forward. Okay? The Ohana really shone through that period. The Ohana really improved the lives of a lot of people who were going through a really, really tough time. And that is the beauty of the Ohana. So RocketPhone is a company founded by myself, right? I spent over 10 years at Salesforce. You might consider me to be a veteran. And the entire company is sort of shamelessly engineered to work with Salesforce technology, Salesforce employees, customers, and partners, right? And I'm a staunch believer in the power of the Ohana, of what it represents and the goodness that it brings. So, when we thought about raising our seed round, we had all the usual options in front of us. So, there were numerous early stage funds vying for our attention. We had venture capital organizations speaking to us. I mean, money was readily available. There was just no shortage of it. But something really nagged at me. And I actually, I wasn't entirely at ease with the sort of conjugal nature of some of the funding proposals. I did expect to relinquish some control, if not over the running of the company, then certainly over the decisions around financial structure and ownership. And I was okay with this. And I expect to be joined at the hip for many years with these investors. But it didn't feel right to me. It felt very exclusive. And so I was thinking about this late one night, and I did some cursory research on the most successful companies inside the Salesforce ecosystem. So these names that you may have heard, Viva was built on $7 million worth of VC funding with just one VC involved, and that was Emergence Capital. Viva went on to IPO, valuation of around $2.5 billion. And I think the most recent valuation is around $44 billion. So I can't speak to the inner workings of that company. But I would suspect that the main beneficiaries of that IPO, were the founders and Emergence Capital. Then there's Encino, $5.5 billion valuation, investment by T. Rowe Price and Salesforce Ventures. And then was Velocity, acquired by Salesforce for around $1.3 billion, investment led by Salesforce Ventures and Sutter Hill. Then there was Zuora, $1.83 billion valuation, Blackboard, $2.7 billion valuation, and then a whole string of others. So there was definitely a common thread across these companies in that the ownership structure for all these highly successful Salesforce ecosystem companies were heavily skewed towards a very small number of well-endowed VCs and, of course, the founders. And I realized what was nagging at me. So there's nothing inherently wrong with the coming together of strong founders and great VCs, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But to me, this isn't, or it wasn't, Ohana. It is absolutely the case that entire economies can blossom from that great coupling of founders and good VCs, and that's absolutely fine. But as someone who is in the Ohana, and for someone who's seen the power of the Ohana, I just feel like there's this vast emptiness of an opportunity being squandered. And you can't hold these companies accountable for this, right? Because, they're probably ignorant to the power of the Ohana, or maybe they just disregarded it because, for the spoils that they see before them. And this is, in fact, the very first time a company has sought to be owned by the Ohana without going to an IPO, but which, by the way, bypasses the Ohana altogether and gives ownership dips to the whole world, right? So the one thing I do want to point out at this stage is that, I do want every member to be an owner, but there was a limited level of funding that we want to raise, or that we even should raise. And that's against a fair market valuation.
it makes it impossible for every member of the Ohana to be an owner of RocketPhone. So you need to act really quickly and just get on this horse. So I can't promise that everyone in the Ohana is going to get shares in this round, but I can absolutely assure you that there are no closed doors or backroom private deals happening with VCs or institutions. I don't doubt that at some future point in time that we'll need institutional support, maybe to, in subsequent funding round to help us scale and grow the business faster. But by then, the Ohana will have taken its rightful place in our cap table. The best way to answer this question is to deliver the answer in parts. So if we start with, the product, you will own what is already the most advanced business telephony platform in the world for Salesforce users. Okay, categorically, we're the best bar none. Right, I'm not exaggerating. We've broken new ground. With our ability to ingest real-time audio, process it, and then kick off a multitude of configurable actions. All in real time, and while the rep is on the call. We've engineered the platform from the ground up so that RocketPhone can be up and running in just a few days. And that time to value is critical to our success. And it's a massive differentiator for us, versus our competitors. Our technology platform and the user experience around it is nothing short of remarkable. And I invite every single one of you to watch the RocketPhone demo that is on our crowdfunding page, just to get a feel for what we've built as a team. So let's talk about shareholder value then. We are focused on making RocketPhone the de facto business comms platform in every Salesforce region globally, right? And with that will come, the revenues to sort of match that ambition. We sell to our customers on the basis of 100% increase in their business velocity, which is the speed at which their organization gets things done. And as they use RocketPhone, they can see very clearly how we can deliver that for them. We already have customers that are planning to extend, their use of RocketPhone into regions across the whole planet. And, our customers chose us over well-known CTI alternatives because of the sheer level of innovation in what we've built. And in the words of one of our customers, RocketPhone is a no-brainer, which is what we love to hear. So, we initiate the conversation as a supplier of a Salesforce CTI system, but it quickly becomes apparent that RocketPhone is actually much, much more than that. And of course, the more RocketPhone licenses that we sell, the greater the impact is to shareholder value. And then the beneficiary of that, of course, is you and all the other Ohana shareholders. Let's talk quickly about liquidity events. A liquidity event is a point in time where an investor such as yourself can cash out some or all of their holding. But just be under no illusion that we're gunning for a sizable exit event. But we will endeavor to create these intermediary liquidity opportunities for our investors, as and when it becomes feasible. Let's talk about growth opportunities for you as an individual, for you as a professional, because being a part of an Ohana investor community, has benefits of itself, and so beyond ownership of the shares, we are the Ohana, and Ohana values apply here. Each of us has aspirations, and the best success is mutual. So we want you to be ambassadors for RocketPhone, and we're going to do everything in our power to reciprocate that. So we're going to promote community and interaction across all the investors. And so if you need a helping hand, from a suitably qualified co-investor, we're going to make sure that person's within reach of you. Okay. It might be because you want to launch your own business, regional consultancy. You may want to become a technology provider that has aspirations for global reach like we do. But whatever it is, we're here to give you the benefit of our experience, and to put you in touch with co-investors that can help you, guide you, and nurture your aspirations. Transparency is very important to what we do, and this kind of funding requires a level of trust that is not a feature of like a conventional VC round. Okay, and we get that, and as investors, you're going to receive regular updates on our progress. It's going to include all the good stuff like customer wins and product enhancements and plaudits and nice things like that. But, we're not going to shy away from the bad stuff either, because, unfortunately, bad stuff happens as well, right? Like, it might be a customer loss, issues with the product, obstacles that just generally hinder our success. Because at the end of it all, I know that with the Ohana on our side, we have, the world's smartest people to turn to, just in case we might need help as well. Innovation is so crucial to what we do. It's at the very core of, everything that we built, every thought that we've had. And, as a company, we're already, very much at the forefront of business telephony that is driven through innovation, which is unique because most of the telephony platforms don't apply innovation in their thinking at all. But we're really strong at this point, and we have some great people. Our Chief Science Officer, Professor Michael Waldridge, is the head of computer science at Oxford University with 3 decades of AI research experience under his belt. We're very closely associated with the University of Manchester, who famously created the first computer. And they're co-working with us to develop world-leading waveform processing algorithms that can do stuff like detect mental health issues such as RHD, dementia, aphasia, and even approximate what a caller's age might be. So then, beyond the product, we're innovating with how we run our company, raise capital, and we will continue to, as Steve Jobs successfully put it, think different, okay? Because we don't just do something because it's been done before, or, it's a nice to have, or it's a me too, or the market expects this, right? We do things because it's going to be game changing. That's why we do it. We are Ohana, right? Our job titles, sexuality, nationality, gender, professional seniority, they're just an indication of what we can contribute to each other. And they don't affect the equality that we all share. The young will enlighten us with fresh thought, while, those closer to my age might extol the pearls of their wisdom. But whichever way it goes, RocketPhone and its Ohana owners will thrive on our diversity. So I welcome you to have a read through our pitch deck, browse the various documents and videos that we've made available. This is our time, okay? We're changing the definition of voice and telephony. And we're trailblazing. And, maybe we're even making history, right? And so if we are making history, then join us and let's make history together.